I have covered the Black Friday sale a couple of times now, but there have been so many great games included within this sale, so I've only just scratched the surface of what to pick up before it ends really soon. Today though, I've highlighted 20 games which I didn't cover in my previous videos, and these ones are essential pickups before this sale ends on Thursday. Remember as well, I do give away a free game on these sales videos every single Wednesday, so to enter, all you have to do is just comment below and I'll pick one lucky viewer in next week's sales video. With the sales this week, unfortunately they do end on Thursday, meaning my sales videos might be towards Thursday or Friday, so do check out a little bit later on this week to see if you've won that good old free Xbox game. With that though, my name is Fletcher and this is Xbox Nation, and let's just jump right into it. First up, I think it is safe to say that some games really earn the word definitive, and The Witcher 3 Complete Edition is certainly one of those. Even though I did mention the base game before, I now have been made aware that the Complete Edition is also down in price as well, and for me this really is the ultimate game for you to grab as soon as possible. This package includes the base game and both massive expansions, and it turns an already legendary RPG into a gigantic saga spanning swamps, kingdoms, mountain ranges, and even monster dens. The expansions alone, that being Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, are worth that price tag, and they bring over 50 hours of content alone, and I've easily spent over 200 hours in total within The Witcher 3's base game. At £7, this is an absurd value for a game packed with so much content and some of the best stories and visuals in all of gaming. Now, if space horror is more your style, then you definitely have to check out Dead Space Remake, as it is down a whopping 80% for this Black Friday. This game is a sci-fi horror masterpiece in every sense. Of course, you will be taking control of Isaac Clarke, the engineer who finds himself trapped aboard the USG Ishimura, which is a mining ship that's been overrun by grotesque alien creatures called the Necromorphs. The isolation of just being in deep space with those horrific enemies and the incredible sound design all come together to create one of the most terrifying experiences that I've ever played. I still get chills, and I absolutely hate horror games due to this game, and honestly the eerie whispers of just going through the ship's corridors still has me on edge. The game cranks up the tension though with every single encounter, and the zero gravity combat just adds a whole new layer of terror to this experience. If you've never played Dead Space before, then definitely pick up the Dead Space remake, as it will absolutely blow your mind. I just wish they would also remake the second and third game, as they would be pretty cool to see as well. I already know that Star Wars Outlaws was very mixed upon its launch, with many stating they would only try this game once they saw it on a very deep discount. Well, in true Ubisoft fashion, and thanks to this Black Friday, we are actually seeing a massive 70% discount on Outlaws, and it actually brings it down to the lowest price we've ever seen yet. I do heavily recommend it, especially at this price point, as I actually really enjoyed my time with this one at its launch. If you're unfamiliar, you will play as Kay Vess, who's an outlaw navigating the edges of galactic society, and actually takes place between episodes 5 and episode 6. This is the first true open world Star Wars game as well, and it delivers on its scale and freedom, as it lets you travel from bustling cities to desolate outer rim planets on foot or by your own ship. You will of course engage in stealth shootouts, negotiating and daring getaways, and that's all whilst building your reputation in a galaxy that remembers your actions. As I mentioned, it was pretty poorly received at launch, but it's really undergone some pretty significant updates since then, and honestly it's definitely worth diving into if you haven't played it yet. For £20.99 in the sale, I definitely recommend it for this week. If you're after an open world adventure that doesn't take itself too seriously but still delivers some incredibly tight gameplay and very rich exploration, then let me introduce you to Immortals Fenyx Rising, as it's a total sleeper hit that many people have still not tried. This one though is inspired by Greek mythology, and you'll play as Fenyx, a customizable hero that's dropped you into a vibrant, stylized world that's full of gods, monsters and puzzles. Think something like Breath of the Wild but meets Assassin's Creed, but with a comedic twist and a very light-hearted tone. For me, the traversal is utterly smooth, and the combat actually feels quite fluid in this experience. To be honest, my favourite part of it all though was just the world, as it's packed with so many secrets, dungeons and clever environmental challenges for you to discover. With an 80% discount bringing it down to just £7, it's a ridiculous amount of content for that price point, and is easily one of Ubisoft's most unappreciated open world gems. Remnant 2 is easily one of my favourite co-op shooters on all of Xbox, and although I was sad to see it leave Xbox Game Pass, I do highly recommend you grab it as soon as possible, as its price is utterly ridiculous. The game is really fun with procedural generation front and centre, and this basically means that every campaign playthrough reshuffles the worlds, dungeons, bosses and enemies, and even story branches. That unpredictability is utter magic, as you feel like you're exploring some strange realities that no one else is seeing in the same order. Combat though is slightly different, as it's more Souls-like in terms of its difficulty scale, but as you can see the game is primarily a third-person shooter with some very light hand-to-hand combat. This new entry also included what they're calling an archetype system, which really encouraged some wild combinations of different perks and abilities, and it completely reshaped how I actually played this one. At just under £13, this is an absolute bargain for this Black Friday. Next up, we have Wild Hearts, and this one really reimagined the monster hunting genre with a unique blend of ancient Japanese aesthetics and inventive buildable tech called Karakuri. This one though is set in the fantasy land of Azuma, and you basically face off against massive beasts that evolve over time, and you have to challenge your tactics with every counter. What really set this game apart though from that monster hunter genre is its crafting on the fly mechanic, as it lets you sort of place traps, platforms and weapons mid-battle to basically shift the tide in real time. The open world is also very beautiful and brutal, offering stuff like dynamic weather, rich environments and seamless co-op multiplayer for up to 3 players. Wild Hearts really felt like a fresh evolution in the hunting action space, and is one game that I actually delved into not really thinking I was going to enjoy it that much, and actually really having a good time with it. It did have a few technical issues at launch for sure, but over time these have been resolved, and it's definitely worth that £7 price tag. Again, it's such a huge deal for a game packed with so much content, and I do highly recommend it at this moment in time. Set in an alternate Soviet universe, Atomic Heart was a wild, chaotic blend of Bioshock-style FPS gameplay, but with very surreal and strange storytelling. With the second entry, which I'm hoping we see maybe in 2026, this is the best time to really experience where it all started. You may be aware of it by now, but the game is all about experimentation, from stuff like telekinesis, melee weapons, hacking and heavy weaponry that combine in some frantic combat, and as always exploring some bizarre retro-futuristic facilities filled with mutant robots and probably everything else in there. Whilst I didn't love the game over something like Bioshock, because obviously you can't really beat the storytelling there, it did have a few lackluster open world segments as well, but to be honest, for the low price point, it's definitely worth experiencing, as it does have some hits of greatness here. For me, £21 gets you a really stylish and unpredictable FPS with some of the most striking visuals of this generation. For me, I absolutely love Cult of the Lamb, and it was a real indie treat that I managed to play whilst on holiday last year. It basically takes 2 genres that should never really mix, that being an adorable animal village that requires your management, and then an eldritch cult leadership that you need to grow. Half the game is actually roguelike dungeon crawling with some very fast and punchy combat with randomized layouts and quirky bosses, and the other half is just spent running that cult. That means feeding your followers, cleaning up their messes, building shrines, holding rituals, sacrificing the occasional troublemaker, and that's all with its sort of cute and artsy style that makes everything so much funnier. I never expected this one to get as deep as it really did, and I won't lie, it does have some moments of hilarity throughout it. For £10.50, it's a unique blend of chaos and cuddly aesthetics that shouldn't work, but absolutely does. Some stealth games really make you feel incredibly sneaky, and Mark of the Ninja makes you feel like a ghost with a sword. Every movement matters here, the way you scale walls, extinguish lights, crawl through vents, and just strike from the shadows. The brilliance in this game really does lie in its clarity. You always know how visible you are, how much noise you're making, and where enemies are looking. That transparency turns the stealth aspect of the game into a puzzle you're constantly solving on the fly. That means that kills are optional, creativity is really rewarded, and the remastered edition just sharpens everything from animations, lighting, sound and detail. For £4, you're honestly getting one of the most smart and elegant stealth games ever created, and is a masterclass in design that still feels way ahead of its time. I always loved Cyberpunk. Even with all the troubles and woes at its launch, I really did see a game that could only get better. And to be honest, I probably am a little bit clouded with my judgment, as I did play it on Google Stadia at the time and not on the Xbox One consoles. Well, I was finally glad though that CD Projekt Red actually stuck with this one, as Cyberpunk 2077, with all of its neon lights and dark underbelly, is still one of the best RPGs that you can grab on Xbox right now. You play as V, but your version of V depends entirely on your choices though. You can choose to specialize in different areas like hacking, stealth, melee, brutality, sharpshooting, cyber madness, and all of that extra stuff with it, and the game really lets you sculpt your entire identity. The story may not be the strongest aspect of the entire game, and although I did enjoy it, the Witcher series was certainly way more impactful, but the world of Night City and all of the added DLC is just bloody incredible. At £17.50 after all the updates and refinements, this is the game that Cyberpunk was always meant to be. Minecraft Dungeons takes the familiar blocky charm of Minecraft but turned it into a colourful, family-friendly action RPG. Instead of mining and building, you're instead looting, smashing, rolling and spellcasting through handcrafted levels packed with mobs, secrets and even some quite incredible boss fights. The Ultimate Edition though actually included every bit of DLC, and it dramatically expands the world with loads of jungles, mountains, frozen biomes, ancient temples and more. I do have to say though, this one is actually really approachable, especially for the younger audiences, but it's surprisingly deep once you start experimenting with different build combinations and so much more. For £12, you're getting a complete polished dungeon crawler suitable for solo play or co-op with family or friends, and honestly it's probably one of my favourite dungeon crawlers of all time. It's very light-hearted, colourful and endlessly replayable. Just don't let that Minecraft tag put you off, it's just actually pretty deep here. Yes, Evil West is available on Xbox Game Pass, but with them only asking for £15 within the sale, and I know many of you have also unsubscribed from the service, I can't miss this opportunity to recommend this game. If you have somehow missed this gem, it essentially throws you into the boots of a supernatural cowboy that's slaying vampires in a gritty, stylized old western setting. You'll unleash a combination of stuff like melee combos, explosive gadgets, and lightning-powered weaponry to decimate hordes of the undead. That steampunk aesthetic and influence really pays dividends though, as you never see that sort of stylization with any other game on the market. The game though balances fast-paced brawler mechanics with shooter elements, and its cinematic presentation gives every punch and blast a weighty, over-the-top feel. There's also co-op support, so you can tear through creatures in the night with a friend by your side, and if you want a game that's very reminiscent of the 360 games, then this one with 70% off is a perfect pick. I bet you've probably never heard of this next game before. Death Road to Canada is a road trip roguelike where everything and absolutely everything can go incredibly wrong in the funniest way possible. You manage a ragtag group of survivors traveling through zombie-infested America, and you'll be juggling all manner of resources, personalities, and random events alongside some chaotic combats. One moment you may be looting a grocery store, the next a party member storms off because they lost a morale coin flip, or someone recruited a dog with a shotgun. The humor in this one is insanely sharp, the pixel art is actually quite charming, so don't let that put you off, and the unpredictability is endlessly entertaining. This indie game is absolutely fantastic, and every run here just feels like a bizarre story you'll want to retell. For under £4, it's one of the most delightfully ridiculous indie roguelikes out on the market, and it's one I highly recommend you dive into as soon as possible. Now, Biomutant is a wild mix of martial arts combat, mutant powers, and open world exploration, and it's all wrapped up in a vibrant post-apocalyptic setting. In this one, you play as a customizable creature who crafts weapons, forms alliances, and then decides the fate of the world through dialogue choices and moral decisions. The real-time combat system lets you fluidly blend melee, ranged, and elemental attacks while exploring some lush landscapes filled with quirky characters and so much lore. It's also got a dynamic karma system with branching storylines that keeps everything fresh on repeat playthroughs, and adding this stuff like additional side missions, tribe wars, and environmental based puzzles, it really expands the gameplay beyond that main quest. It's now at its lowest price that personally I've ever seen before, at just under £9, and to be honest, that's a great time to now give it a shot. Now it's 85% off, this is the best way to jump into a surprisingly rich and creative action RPG known as Steelrising. This game really offers a steampunk spin on the French Revolution, where you will control Aegis, a deadly automaton fighting back against the king's mechanical forces. As you can expect, this is a Souls-like, so your combat is very fast, evasive, and of course, one hit and you're practically dead. Each area is filled with loads of secrets, upgrades, and lore entries that reward your exploration though, and I highly recommend it as that's the best way to beat the game here. Visually though, this one's a treat as it really captures the grandeur and grime of the 18th century France with all of that flair. Weapon variety from fans to halberds adds so much flexibility as well how you approach every single fight, and each one of them does actually throw in an extra gameplay mechanic. I highly recommend this one, especially if you're a lover of all things Souls-likes, as it's similar in a way to the excellent Lies of P. Rogue remains as one of the most interesting entries within the entire AC lineup, as you're not just an assassin hunting down a Templar this time, it's actually the other way around. I absolutely adore this game, and so much so I actually have a tattoo on my arm commemorating just how much I enjoyed my time with it. Shay Cormac's story is morally complex, it's smaller in scope than other games such as Black Flag, but surprisingly tragic. The naval combat though does return in style like you do see in Black Flag, but this time it's set in icier waters. This means stuff like exploding icebergs and tense ship chases through frozen frontiers, and honestly they really did nail that snow aesthetic. The remaster though sharpened textures and lighting from the 360 version, giving the world a more cleaner and more colourful look, and it plays incredibly well on the Xbox Series consoles. At just under £4, it's incredible value for such a tight focused AC adventure, and for me it's easily my top 3 AC games of all time. If Chaos had a playground, it would look like Riders Republic. This open world extreme sports festival throws you onto bikes, skis, wingsuits, snowboards, and so much more, and then dares you to barrel down mountains and deserts at some breakneck speed. The multiplayer scale in this one is utterly staggering, as it actually puts dozens of players racing side by side in giant events, with actually the largest of them called Mass Races actually containing 50 real world players. It's great as well if you want to see all the fun of that one, as it gets really chaotic, seeing people sort of fall off ledges, glide into sort of trees, and so much more. If you want to nail tricks in freestyle arenas though instead, or just want to bomb down trails with your friends, there really is different actual tasks and different flavors of adrenaline here for absolutely every single player. What makes it sweeter in its price though, it's actually a draw-dropping 90% discount this week, and actually brings it down to a low price of £3.50, and I really can't believe I actually spent 40 quid on this game now that it's that low in price. I picked this one up shortly after its launch a few years back now, and I really love my time with this one, and they're even bringing more updates to this one even now with that low price point. Down to just £3 with a massive 85% off, we have Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, and this is one of the most underappreciated action RPGs of the last generation. With deep combat mechanics alongside massive creatures for you to take down and a cool party system that allows for endlessly customizable AI companions, this one has some serious depth to it. What really kept me coming back though was the combat, as it's very weighty, dynamic and encourages your experimentation. Whether you're climbing a cyclops, flinging fireballs or switching classes mid-run, the gameplay stays fresh throughout your experience. This version I'm highlighting though also includes the bitterly difficult but fantastic Dark Arisen expansion, which adds some brand new locations and brutal enemies. If you've been sleeping on the Dragon's Dogma franchise, now's the time to dive into the first game in this franchise. It offers more adventure than games that are 10 times its price tag. Far Cry 4 is also seeing a massive discount this week, and it's actually its lowest price we've ever seen yet. This is definitely a very good time to grab it though if you don't have Game Pass or you just want to own the game forever. To give you a very brief rundown, this one is set in the mountainous region of Krat, and you basically enter this region to scatter your mother's ashes, but then you find yourself stuck between a civil war with the ruthless dictator known as Pagan Min. This one for me is one of the best Far Cry games that we've ever seen to this day, and for me the real big highlight though was the scale and verticality of the world along with its superb gunplay. At just under £4, this is the best value the game's ever offered, and is a great way to experience one of the strongest entries in the Far Cry franchise. I have no doubt mentioned Tribes of Midgard here on the channel before, and it was always one I really enjoyed when I first tried it over on PS5 a few years ago now, and it's actually exclusive for a short period, hence why I played it there. This one though is practically an online roguelike, as you and others must join together, defend your village from mythological creatures and these sorts of titans as well, and this all whilst collecting different resources and gear in the world to progress further and further. The combat, survival mechanics and co-op tower defense are surprisingly cohesive once they're actually paired together, and it's a real Norse flavoured experience as well, which I really love. It's a bit of Diablo meets Valheim, but with a very stylized art direction and seasonal content that keeps things fresh. If you want something a little offbeat to sink your time into, especially for this Black Friday, then this one punches well above its price point, especially at just under £4 for this week. What games have you picked up in this Black Friday sale? I would be keen to hear all the games in the comments below, as I'm always interested to have a discussion with you guys about what you're buying, what's on your wish list, and so much more. Remember as well while you're down there to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to also hype it, as I believe there's now a hype button. I'm not really sure what it does, but I'm assuming it helps the video. And then also subscribe as well for more Xbox content like this on a daily basis. Whilst you're here though, and if you want to check out some more awesome Xbox content here on the channel, why don't you check out the video on screen now? I actually covered all of the games coming out on Xbox this week and also coming to Xbox Game Pass, and there's a few games you want to keep your eye on. Do stay tuned as well, as I will be bringing a 12 days of Xbox Nation coming very soon, while I'll be doing giveaways and so much more, so stay tuned to the channel for this holiday season.